The Ice Age is still ongoing. What's a fact you know, that almost everyone is wrong about? The Mayans didn't disappear or go extinct. They still live in Central America and speak at least 24 different Mayan languages. The last Mayan city didn't fall to Spanish conquest until 1697. Same for Aztecs. Nahuatl is still spoken in Mexico. Diamonds can in fact be shattered with a hammer. There is a difference between how strong something is and how hard it is. However, diamonds can't be scratched by another material or cut. They are polished with other diamonds, diamond dust basically made into sandpaper. Your flight isn't delayed because the tower says so. They blame it on air traffic control, because if the airlines admit the blame on themselves they may have to reimburse you. It's the weather 90% of the time. I saw a post a few weeks back where this guy was questioning why Virgin cancelled a flight due to weather, and wanted a free hotel etc. His reasoning was his iPhone app didn't show any bad weather and it was nice and calm outside. 45 minutes later there's golf ball-sized hail in Melbourne, but Kavik in Sydney and people are still whinging about it. Airlines apparently love cancelling flights to annoy you, despite the fact it costs them revenue and gate fees etc. Einstein didn't fail math. Perhaps the legend is founded in the fact that the Swiss school system has a 6 as best grade, and 1 as poorest, while the German is the other way round. I always hear that excuse from my deadbeat dropout friends, Einstein dropped out, to which I will always reply yeah but he dropped out of an incredibly high-level science college, not high school. I love my friends but for God's sakes have some aspirations. It was an honest mistake, he applied for university in Germany but went high school in Switzerland. In Switzerland the 1 was the highest grade but in Germany it is 6. They thought he was abysmal at maths but actually he aced the test. Robin Williams didn't kill himself because he was depressed. He killed himself because he had Lewy body dementia, a degenerative brain disease. His autopsy showed that he had one of the worst cases ever seen. His wife has confirmed that he had about 50 symptoms, and depression was one of the least intense. His best friend, who has a name I can't possibly spell, Bobcat Goldthwait, has also confirmed it wasn't depression or substance abuse that caused him to commit suicide. Dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical. You see the misconception all the time. Someone indulges in their favorite vice and says gotta get my dopamine rush. But dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about craving. Our dopamine levels don't spike when we get something we want, they spike when something we want becomes available, and go down once we actually get the pleasurable thing. Dopamine isn't the rush of driving fast, it's the green light that tells you to go. That's also why drugs that work through dopamine tend to be more addictive. The pleasure chemical is a title that fits better for serotonin, but still, it's a massive simplification to think that the brain works with a chemical for pleasure, one for reward etc. There are multiple chemicals involved. That the air in your bag of chips isn't oxygen but nitrogen so that your product doesn't stale. It also keeps them from breaking to an extent. I never understand people being mad at being cheated because there is too much air in bags. You are buying the weight of the actual product. If it says 90 grams or whatever, that is what you get. If you agreed to pay X amount for 90 grams of chips, and you got 90 grams of chips, but there was a lot of air in the top half of the bag, you weren't cheated. Marie Antoinette never said let them eat cake. The first written account of this story is from 1767 and doesn't attribute the quote to her. She would have been 12 at the time, and would go on to marry Louis XVI 3 years after this quote was initially published. The quote wasn't even about cake, it was about brioche. It was a rumor started to defame her, and further make people hate her, because she was already disliked because she was Austrian. That janitor is a low-class job. I'm a janitor and let me tell you we make good money. Amazing benefit. People treat you with so much respect. Comes the holiday, janitor gets a lot of gifts from the people he cleans for. You're like a hero when there is toilet or bathroom trouble. Yeah, we make good money. I make more money than my friend who graduated university. Not only that, you have good co-workers. Nobody tells you what to do cause you pretty much have a routine. After living in Slovakia for 7.5 years, I got beyond frustrated when people would tell me that I would catch a cold from simply being in cold weather, or that air conditioning in the summer makes you sick. Or that you treat a cold with antibiotics. Or that sitting on cold concrete will give you hemorrhoids. I tried to refute all of this with actual evidence but it fell upon deaf ears. I wish they would gain a little knowledge and learn about bacteria, figuring out this is all BS, just avoid contagious people. Then they'd learn a little more, about immune systems, and how their body is more likely to get sick in a weakened state, and realized that even though the explanation was wrong, the superstition was based on a nugget of true. The word helicopter is a combination of helico, spiral, and pter, one with wings. Most people assume the word breaks down into heli and copter without realizing those two words mean nothing in this connotation. Influenza, i.e. the flu, is a respiratory illness, not an enteric illness. This means that its main symptoms are not diarrhea or vomiting. If you have those symptoms, you have something else, and your flu shot won't protect you against those types of illnesses. Singers, almost universally, have a consistent tendency to sing slightly flat, not sharp. It's due primarily to lack of proper breath support and not because they have a tin ear for music. That the Ice Age isn't something that ended 10,000 years ago. The Ice Age is still ongoing, but we are in what's called a warm interglacial period. We still very much live in an ice age. Earth has jumped between glacial and interglacial periods for the past 400,000 years. Each peak is an interglacial period with temperatures and climate similar to what we have today. Each drop is a glacial period with colder average temperatures and climate similar to what people and the fauna experienced up until around 11,000 years ago, what you were taught in school. As you can see, we are pretty close to the peak of this interglacial period, and things should theoretically soon begin to cool down again, and we'll enter another glacial period if past trends continue. Which they may not due to recent mishaps of humanity. We might skip that period altogether, or bring it on sooner, or runaway greenhouse effect. We don't know. Just remember that this doesn't mean that global warming is a hoax, it's not. But that's a different discussion. Various recent graphs and information related to the current climate discussion on global warming or climate change can be found easily on Google if you are interested. While serving on an airfield, I remember telling a non-aviation friend that there was a plane coming in about an hour from then. He said that was impossible, because the tower is closed. I explained to him that flights come in all the time when the towers are closed. Even commercial jets are constantly landing without the tower being open. He absolutely blew up, said I didn't know what I was talking about, and that planes would crash all the time if that was the case. How could planes land without a tower? That just makes no sense. I even got my superior officer on the phone the next day to explain it, and he still wouldn't believe it. I had 3 other people under me explain it to him, and he still wouldn't believe it. I told him, dude, it's really simple to prove, the tower hours are posted. Check the last time a flight lands for the night and I guarantee it will be after that time. He did, it was, and yet he still refused to believe me. The sad fact is, people would probably riot if they found this out, because they'd think it was horribly dangerous, but it's been standard operating procedure for decades now and no one has even noticed. It hasn't caused a single crash. Believe it or not, it's actually safer to come in after hours because of the reduced traffic. This is not something that needs fixing, it's a very logical move. But I'll bet there are even people reading this that won't believe it. Unless you work in aviation, you probably don't know any of this. That fun fact: you eat 8 spiders in your sleep each year. If you even think about it a little bit, it makes no sense. A lot of American homes don't have an abundance of spiders, and they usually just tend to their webs or live in areas without a lot of foot traffic. They usually don't even intentionally crawl into someone's bed because it offers no prey, and spiders only view us as part of the landscape because we're so big. Spiders would also most likely be scared of sleeping people because of the vibrations caused by breathing and snoring. A lot of people don't actually sleep with their mouth open, and if they do, they're probably snoring, which again repels spiders. The spider fact was not an experiment to see how fast misinformation would spread. That was also a fake fact. I know not everyone believes this, but apparently at my school it's still being taught that blood is blue until it interacts with oxygen. Blood is never blue, it's just a darker red. The reason veins are blue is because of the way light penetrates your skin. If you don't have a will, your spouse doesn't necessarily get your stuff. But, the state doesn't take it all, either. You don't have to pay gift taxes if you make a gift of over $15,000, you just have to file a gift tax return. Revocable trusts don't change the taxation of your estate. Guess what I do for a living? Despite how strong elephants are, it hurts them when you ride on their back. Yes, they are buggin' strong, but their backs aren't. Moral of the story, don't ride elephants. Shaving, waxing, plucking or anything of the sorts does not make your hair grow back faster or thicker. It just looks thicker because it is new growth. The only thing that will really change how thick or dense your hair growth is hormones. Liking things neat isn't necessarily OCD. Being anxious only sometimes is different to having anxiety. Telling someone to calm down or to relax during a panic attack doesn't help. Breathing, in through the nose and out through the mouth. A big breath in the belly helps too. Try to imagine your belly filling up like a balloon and exhale. There's some great resources online for breathing techniques. Helpful statements to say, saying calm down, relax and stop shaking doesn't help. We know. We're trying to calm down. It's the body's natural instinct for us to panic. Usually positive phrases help. Such as it'll be okay, it'll pass. It always passes and it can't hurt you. You'll be fine. Give us time. Panic attacks can happen at any time. Often for no reason. It was a useful human feature when we had to outrun natural predators back in our primal days. The heart would beat faster and the adrenaline would kick in and give us heightened senses to help us to escape. But now? Yeah, I don't need to outrun a wild creature while playing Crash Bandicoot alone in my house. It's a release of adrenaline. It's why our hearts pound and we shake. It's also completely normal. It won't hurt you. It'll pass. Just give us and yourself time. I'm glad people were asking me how they can help someone having a panic attack. I hope you'll put into practice what I've said when helping a friend or family member if they're panicking. Or even yourself if you struggle with it. You'll be okay. Your hair and nails don't actually keep growing after you die. Your body just loses moisture and fluids, making your body dehydrate and shrink up. This gives the illusion that your fingernails and hair appear longer. I've got nothing to hide. No, privacy matters because everyone has something to hide, such as top-secret conversations between significant others that cellular providers have less than zero business knowing about. Okay, you've got nothing to hide? Tell me your email address, cell phone number, and home address. Or better yet, if you do have a significant other, then why not show me all the private conversations you've had, because you have nothing to hide, right? The next time you're leaving on a vacation, why don't you leave your home unlocked so that anyone can get in, because you have nothing to hide, right? Or the next time you're using the bathroom, leave the stall open, because you have nothing to hide, right? That'll get 'em. The definition of an introvert. Not all introverts hate people and never want to socialize. Being introverted just means that social interaction is physically and mentally draining. Compared to an extrovert, who gains energy through social interaction. We introverts still like to get out and have a good time and can genuinely enjoy it. It's just going to require some downtime after. That it's a good idea to make furniture out of old pallet wood. No, that stuff gets treated with all kinds of pesticides when shipped overseas so you don't transfer any bugs or fungi. You don't want the gases emerging from it in your living room. I've even seen baby beds made from that stuff. Picture a hymen. If you're thinking of a sort of sheet or membrane that covers the vag and is popped by intercourse, you're wrong. It's actually a thin piece of tissue that only partly covers the entrance to your vag. There are some cases where it does completely cover it. This is known as an imperforate hymen, can cause some not insignificant health issues, and is very rare. It doesn't always hurt when it breaks. It's as likely to be broken by accident long before you have sex as it is to be pristine when you do, and sometimes it just disappears by itself without breaking. Either way, despite the idea that it's some sort of foolproof virginity test, whatever you define virginity as, anyway, it's still a pretty vague concept. It leaves a lot to be desired. If you're not consistent with disciplining your child, they will not understand the concept of consequences and thus no matter how hard you try, they will continue to engage in the undesired behavior. Y'all would think that this is a basic thing for parents to understand, but nay. Little Brayden is an angel, and it is no big deal that he pushed a kid off a bike, and the kid who fell may have a concussion. As a teacher, I see far too many parents coddle their children. Sorry love, your son is pushing kids for literally no reason. We have tried every behavior management and discipline strategy we could think of. Yet when you pick your son up at the end of the day and you sign the incident reports, you tell him not to worry and then give him candy and act like nothing happened. He's going to think what he did is okay and continue to do it. Parents, please believe your child's teachers when it comes to their behavior. We just want to have a future where the generation who is going to end up taking care of us isn't full of a-holes. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos. Click the right box for the Reddit Facts playlist. Let us know in the comments what you think about Brayden being an a-hole.